Federal prosecutors used more text messages in the Kilpatrick corruption trial to try to shore up recent testimony. Feds also announced a new chapter in this case. 7 Action News investigator Heather Cataldo joins us now. And Heather, I understand you've learned that these are new allegations that were not part of the original indictment.
That's right, Stephen. In a RICO case, federal prosecutors can add what are called overt acts to the case that contribute to the allegations of racketeering. And the new chapter the feds are about to enter focuses on the construction of a recreation center in Detroit.
Anything to say about all those text messages today?
Former city contractor Bobby Ferguson isn't commenting on the slew of text messages federal prosecutors unveiled in court today. Many of the messages suggest Ferguson and Kwame Kilpatrick were working behind the scenes to position Ferguson on lucrative water department contracts. Last week, business tycoon Tony Suave testified that the ex-mayor held up a $50 million sewer lining contract for one of his companies, Inland Waters Pollution Control. Suave said during a meeting with Kilpatrick, the mayor told him he had the wrong subcontractor on the deal and then told him the right contractor was Ferguson. Suave brought Ferguson Enterprises into the project, but former Suave Vice President Kathleen McCann testified Ferguson wanted profit for no work and that it took them months to get him to sign a contract. Today, EPA agent Carol Paskevich showed the jury text messages sent during those contract talks. In this text, Ferguson writes to Kilpatrick, "I meet with them, I cool. You know I don't cry for expletive that don't help both of us. I didn't push the 5% issue. I turn in budget numbers for site work. What we need to talk about is that expletive Suave." Kilpatrick replied, "Yeah, I'll holla later about that." Federal prosecutors say Kilpatrick also held up a $12 million amendment on a contract that involved this massive sinkhole in Sterling Heights. In one email, an inland executive wrote to McCann, quote, "Info from Bernard Parker, who talked to QK or Kwame Kilpatrick during the weekend, and amendment is held up until Ferguson Enterprises is satisfied." The defense got Paskevich to admit that the texts don't prove Kilpatrick ever met with Suave or that she knew exactly what every message refers to.
There's backstories to these text messages, and when you got 300,000 text messages and you pull a handful out to try to, create a scenario, it just doesn't work. It doesn't hold up. And we all know that, the individual on the witness stand cannot read minds.
The government also announced new allegations involving the Heilman Rec Center on Detroit's east side. 7 Action News has learned the feds are expected to say Ferguson got paid to do no work on the project, an allegation that will be hotly contested by the defense. There's no mention of Heilman in the indictment, but with racketeering charges, federal prosecutors don't have to include every overt act that they believe are part of the case.
Legally, it doesn't necessarily have to be in the indictment. Obviously, they filed a 102-page indictment, so that's what you all could grab onto when it first came down. Look at how thick this is. Oh, my goodness gracious. But at the end of the day, it could have been 10 pages as opposed to 102.
We also have an update on the attorney who fell in court on Monday. It looks like Susan Van Deusen will be out for a few more days as she recovers, and they will resume with her witness at a later date. They used that agent to sort of tie up loose ends on the inland chapter. They thought they were going to get into the Heilman chapter, but they're not there yet. Cross-examination is still going on.
You're just telling us, so today was a big document day. Do you see any signs the jury gets lost in these kinds of days? They'd rather have some, fiery testimony?
They still seem to be paying really close attention, but it is hard when it's just document after document after document to sort of keep track of everything. But they'll be able to look at all the exhibits at a later date.
Well, you certainly make it clear for us. Thank you much, Heather.
Thank you.